just been messing around without having pressed record. Beep, beep.
Oh, it was a different one that time.
Anyway, we just got a question from an anonymous reader that says, "Hey guys, love your stuff and I found it really useful in helping my own learning. Just dropping you a message with an inquiry.
Would you rather run at 100 miles an hour?" don't cancel it.
Okay. Let's just move it out the way for the moment. Would I rather run at 100 miles an hour, Johnny?
Would you rather run at 100 miles an hour or fly at 10 miles an hour?
Fly at 10. Actually,
100 miles an hour is fast, man.
And actually, you know what? 10 is really slow.
At 100 miles an hour, you could just run down the side of the motorway, couldn't you? Not only, I suppose the question becomes, how long can you sustain that for? But that's a lot of free travel.
Johnny, I take it back. I was a bit cocksure with my with my response there. I think 100 miles an hour running is a very tempting offer. Oh, I don't know.
But 10 miles an hour, so 10 miles an hour is probably a fat, like a jog. It's a run.
Flying, what's that? Like, that's basically for the novelty of it. But it's not like it's going to replace any of your commute or any big travel anytime soon.
Well, no, because you can go as the crow flies. You're not constrained by roads or traffic.
You're not with running. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait at traffic lights.
No, but you have to follow the road network. Like you can't run through that house.
I reckon if you combine running 100 miles an hour with like some basic parkour skills, and if you can run that fast, you could run up a wall until you lose momentum.
But you've got to be able to reach 100 miles an hour, so there's an acceleration aspect.
Are you still as prone to injury?
If I just go up and then over, and I'm just going at 10 miles an hour while you're having to like navigate through all these other places.
10 times as fast though. Like you could go run.
I wish we could test it.
Well, you can test it now. Look, out the window there's a house. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if you could fly at 10 miles an hour, there's the arc over the house. So yes, that would be shortest distance. But to run 100 miles an hour just around the building and to get to that side.
But you're going to need... You can't
You're saying it's 10 times the distance.
There's distance required to reach 100 miles an hour, and then distance required to maintain the 100 miles an hour.
So you're saying, so it's not 100 miles an hour, it's like you have to accelerate.
Well, but yeah, of course you do.
But why not
even if you accelerate really fast? Well, you do, but once I'm up there and
you hit critical mass.
I'm at 10 miles an hour. I'm at 10 miles an hour until I reach... Unless I encounter like a helicopter or a big bird, like a bird of prey, for example, that might throw a spanner in the proverbial works.
Are you as prone to injury with the running? Because I can imagine, like, if you trip or if you run into a car or
ding
something.
a hamstring.
Oh, you properly ding a hamstring.
Getting up to 100 miles an hour.
Oh, it would knack.
It would snap.
Yeah, and then you'd have to just be Tom Martin about it. And
I don't think we've ever been so divided on a would you rather.
I can't believe you're... in fairness, when I didn't think properly, I was like, oh, flying. But that's just because everyone thinks flying would be fun.
So running 100 miles an hour would be great if you wanted to get to Cambridge, for example. Then you would shit all over me. But if I'm like, let's meet at Starbucks in town...
How long would it take you to get to Cambridge? Let's say 300 miles, divide by 10.
It's much further than 300 miles.
Okay, so let's say... So, I don't know why I used the calculator for that, that was really stupid. Like, 40 hours. So you'd have to... I mean...
At 10 miles an hour?
Assuming you can fly and read, or fly, like, bring a backpack, get a book...
It'd be colder, wouldn't it?
It would. Yeah. You'd
Windy,
be like...
might rain.
Whereas running, you could do it in 3 hours. It's still a while. It's a lot of running.
Faster than driving, though.
When was the last time you did a 3-hour run? Horrible.
When was the last time you ran 100 miles an hour? So I think what we've arrived at is...
Does that mean a gentle jog is 50 miles an hour? Like, you don't get out of breath.
So I hadn't even considered that aspect.
Would you do everything
like
that fast?
If you got this,
spilling
if you've got
stuff all
top
over the
end
place.
of 100 miles an hour, like jogging at 20 miles an hour, so you're the fastest man on the planet, hands down the fastest man on the planet, unless you have a really long acceleration phase.
I see.
Flying at 10 miles an hour is like having an electric car. Great for inner city travel, but a bit inconvenient. You start getting range anxiety if you want to go a bit further. Being able to run 100 miles an hour is like having a really fast car, but you need a long stretch of motorway.
I see. And are you wrecked at the end? Like, when you have to lie down and be like...
But you'd have to assume that there'd be some metabolic process to make you fly.
I see. That's true.
Because otherwise...
So then it's still tiring?
But just energy gels and...
Okay. I think for the running, you'd have to bring your blue inhaler.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
And then fine.
Hold on. Would you rather? This is a hard one.
This is a really serious, earnest, heartfelt question.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Would you rather continue with your current life or restart it?
Restart in
knowing what you know now.
Yes.
You'd rather restart.
Does that mean restart in the date that I was born, or restart in 2019?
So if it's restart the day you were born, I think there's not. So there is some downside. Like you have to go for, let's say 13, 12. When did you get a bank account? Do you see what I mean?
Well, no, you just do cash transactions until then.
But how do you acquire the cash?
There's a lot. I think as a sentient baby, there's a lot you can do to acquire cash.
There are things you say that should definitely be put on clothing and mugs and written on billboards. Like that's one of the best things you've ever said.
But you're claiming that the limiting factor is a bank account. Like
it's one of them.
I mean, Johnny's an accountant, so he's thinking in terms of like how can I can't be money laundering. I've got to do this legitimately. But
but you need a way to acquire goods and services if you're going to take advantage of being a sentient baby.
Okay, but remember when we were born, there was no contactless. It was all chip and pin.
How would you acquire cash? It was pre-chip and pin.
Yeah, so you could take bets. You could, take
bets.
You could be a pool shark. No, what So imagine a newborn baby comes up to you in a pub and says, "Mate, I'll play you at pool." People would be like,
"So you can't reach the pool table."
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
and you wouldn't be allowed in the pub back in 1990.
Yeah. Okay, so you.
And in fact, you can't even get out of the house because.
Right, I had to sell heroin.
How are you going to acquire the heroin?
Find a dark web.
That didn't exist in 1990. See all the plot holes that exist in Sentient Baby 1.0. Yusef's big plan.
Oh wait, I don't know why I even
just do gigs as a sentient baby.
Trading account. You know exactly where the S&P is going to be.
But you don't have any money. You don't have a bank account. Do you see my point?
If a baby comes up to you and says, "Look, I'll
go short S&P.
Go short S&P. Leverage as much as you can."
There would have been no trading accounts. So you'd have had to have done like execution only trading and actually hold the stock.
Well, then you can call up,
which
use
means
a fake ID.
Stamp duty.
That's fine. So
a cashless, bank accountless baby.
Go to Wall Street.
Okay. Baby on Wall Street.
And then just execute by phone. Because no one's going to know you're a baby on the other end of the line.
You can't read.
Well, you can.
Oh, can you?
Well, this is you're saying.
Oh, I see. I said no. All right, fine. I suppose how can you know what you know now if you can't read or write? Like, how does the...
Mm-hmm. Unless it's just a general sense. It's a vague...
What is a baby... Feeling. How does a baby think? If a baby doesn't know language, how does it think?
This is a... Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of...
Oh my God.
You should listen to Terence McKenna. He talks a lot about how... What is thought like pre-language? And is language the cause of thought? It's a very deep hole. Anyway, what the anonymous questioner really asked us...
What a turn this is going to be.
I'm a huge fan of your podcast, and I was just wondering, had you ever considered doing one based on eating disorders and body dysmorphia? I know this is quite common in our industry. I sometimes see elements of it in my own clients, and I've recently been asked about it. I just do it because I think I can be talked about more because I myself anorexic for a number of years. Okay, so I think Jonny and I have both had a subclinical eating disorder. Would you agree?
What do you mean by subclinical? Just
Something
for all the people, and I know they're in the minority, but the people without medical degrees listening.
Okay, so something that doesn't fit either doesn't fit the diagnostic criteria or doesn't require hospital admission or medical treatment.
Okay, so it wouldn't be diagnosed necessarily.
I think it would be diagnosed.
It would be, right.
But it wouldn't be. It wouldn't necessarily be critical. It wouldn't get to the point where it has to be treated. But it's certainly a yellow flag.
Okay.
I think I've had both ends. So The definitely had elements of anorexia
Right.
and definitely elements of orthorexia.
Okay.
Neither of which I think were full blown. But what's interesting about this, and we've talked about this in our article about, well, in your article about why I stopped caring about leanness, where the Minnesota starvation experiment is a study where they basically took conscientious objectors from World War II, put them through a systematic starvation diet, and these people were all psychiatrically normal to begin with. By the end, they all exhibited clinical anorexia. And so the conclusion of the study is that you induce a physiological change and you can produce a very real psychiatric outcome. And this is independent of how, willpower or emotional stability or anything like that. It's simply that when the body is starved of calories for long enough, it will produce thought patterns and a mindset that is tantamount to anorexia.
Do you think bigorexia is a thing?
So
I don't know whether this has been officially acknowledged or not.
So I think the Minnesota starvation experiment demonstrates a physiological mechanism, and all bodybuilders, I guarantee all bodybuilders will go through that mindset shift when they're in a pre-contest
Sustained calorie deficit.
Yeah, so in a contest prep. So I don't think that Jonny and I are particularly unique in this. Our bodies just did what they're designed to do when they're very deprived of calories, and we started to develop those symptoms when we got very lean. And we don't really make any kind of pretense about that, and we warn clients and everyone that if your goal is to get shredded, like really, really peeled, this will happen, and it will happen to varying degrees, and you have to have a coach to be able to pull you out of it, or to a plan to when to get out of the deficit. Otherwise, it will very quickly just drop off a cliff.
Or you end up rebounding so fast that the whole thing's can become just a depressive cycle, can't it? You've worked so hard for something, you then are unable to see yourself and food rationally, and then you overeat massively for a sustained period of time, gaining a lot of weight very, very quickly.
And the self-hatred kicks in. Well, and you've seen the Fat Nick, the bodybuilder who we'll get the video up.
Is that a deliberate thing, or did he not mean to do that, and that's how it just transpired?
Fat Nick post-contest. In fact, we can even put it on this video now. So if you're watching on YouTube,
on the tubes,
on YouTube, then I will put this.
I'm just watching Yusef do his keyboard wizardry.
Right.
If you listen to a previous podcast, and that's
screen, Google Chrome.
That's notes.
There we are. Right. So
can you play it silently in the background?
Yeah. So this is a guy called Fat Nick, and there's little clips of him just eating for about 2 weeks, eating all kinds of...
And this is directly post-contest, isn't it? So he was shredded pre this video.
So, but basically what he did is he was like, I'm just going to eat for a week, and I'm not going to hold back at all. I'm going to have everything I want and more, including like cherry pies and burgers and everything. And here are the results that he had. He's gone from 220 to 250 pounds, and this is very...
Oh my god! So if you're listening, he just said he went from 220 to 250 in a week.
And here he is. You need to see the shape he's in on YouTube, because he's
incredible,
absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
At 100 kilos.
Is he 100 kilos in that photo?
Yeah.
Wow.
So and then he's gone from that to that in a week, and now we're looking at a man who is actively chubby.
So it looks like a lot of fluid retention, but I'm sure a lot of that is also fat mass.
Yeah,
but
I think so. I mean, I don't know why he did this. Maybe it was a social experiment.
Got 50,000 views on his video.
Fair enough. Probably not worth 50,000 views. But yeah. So the point I'm getting at is that anorexia, particularly in male bodybuilding populations, is very easily overlooked, and this is because one of the diagnostic criteria of anorexia is, I think, it's a 15% weight loss over 3 months or less, and this doesn't. If someone is heavily muscled and already relatively lean, and they're systematically starving themselves, it won't necessarily trigger on that total weight loss thing. and so as a result, it gets missed. And I think they're going to have to redefine the criteria. And I think bigorexia is probably the.
So is that recognised, or is that just sort of a...
Not yet. I think the diagnostic manual will probably take some time to update. But there's new conditions added every year, like hundreds of new weird and wonderful mental health conditions. Bigorexia, colloquially, is just people who just think that they're not big enough, or think they're too small, and they want to keep gaining mass more and more until they're huge. And so I guess it's the reversal.
Did you see that?
No.
A guy was wearing a jacket the wrong way around. So, no.
That could be in the DSM.
So the jacket, it was draped over him with the arms coming down there, and the hood was here. Bizarre.
So
sorry, again, I derailed it again.
Well, that might be one of the new conditions that's updated
for bigorexia
in 2020. Yeah, like
so
reverse jacketosis.
Jackitis. Orthorexia, anorexia, bigorexia. Orthorexia.
So I think we've been there too.
Yeah. Which is I suppose, I don't know. I don't want to murder the definition. Do you know the definition?
Let's look it up. Orthorexia. So, obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy. So clean foods, the obsession with clean foods. We definitely had this. And it can lead to systematically avoiding foods that don't fit that criteria. And what's most heartbreaking about this is that actually clean foods don't exist. There is no such thing.
You looked like someone delivering the news that Santa doesn't exist there.
Well,
it was the same facial expression. I suppose it's the same level of realisation when you see the light, don't you?
Oh, it certainly was for us. It was very it's kind of good news, but what have I been doing wasting my time?
I suppose in terms of these conditions, I feel like this one is the one we are perhaps best equipped to discuss. Mm-hmm. I think certainly anorexia gets very quickly... Well, it is just outside the context of fitness, isn't it?
Yep.
And I think you should be seeking professional medical help rather than...
Really high mortality rate with anorexia.
Yeah. So very serious, and I think don't listen to people on a podcast if you feel you're in that realm or you know someone in that realm. Don't listen to fitness professionals for that stuff.
Oh, absolutely not. There's a lot of fitness professionals that will throw around treatment options for it as well. And unfortunately, there is no substitute for correct medical care, sometimes acutely, and refeeding systematically under very, very supervised conditions. And if you know someone who you think is anorexic, they often do not have insight into the condition. I think when Jonny and I were pre-anorexic, or like basically dieting for either a competition or just getting really lean, which is anyone getting that lean, then we didn't have the insight into that. And I remember avoiding social events that involved food because it was so stressful and constantly being consumed by the idea of food, but not really having an insight into how much impact it was having until coming out of it, until after the fact, and you're like, oh man, like...
I think it is important to stress that it is a different situation to someone who is... Because there's body dysmorphia there, for sure, in that you constantly feel like you aren't lean enough. But the goal for someone who is dieting for the purposes of achieving a certain body fat percentage to appear a certain way for a bodybuilding or physique context is also very heavily considering maintaining strength and muscle mass, consuming sufficient protein, consuming fruit and vegetables. The focus is not weight loss overall.
At all causes,
it's body fat loss, and also it is still very visual. But I think it is important to stress that we weren't headed towards this situation of weight loss at all costs. It's within the context of a bodybuilder, I suppose.
And so we were, the etiology, the causative factors were very different. And so as a result, we were, fortunately, much at less risk of suicide or electrolyte disturbances or the
Well, because actually we were probably paying more attention than we do now
Yeah.
to ensuring that we were getting sufficient nutrients across the board. I mean, you are systemically insufficient, but you're still managing your micronutrition and stuff like that very carefully.
Absolutely.
But for someone in that position, that's why people discuss reverse dieting or recovery dieting, to bring you out of that state of mind. The reason why we aren't both still in that state of mind is because we had a plan post-diet to get us out of that. We didn't need...
And objectivity.
Someone to say, this is
enough.
Yeah, but we didn't need CBT or medical intervention to get that. It was just a case of someone professionally, a coach managing our calories for us. But I think orthorexia is probably something that even after that, I would say lingered. Mm-hmm. And probably, I think for most people, so certainly the mainstream fitness community, I would say orthorexia is probably the most prevalent.
Oh, massively. And it's funny because the predominant character type, personality type in someone who is into fitness and successful in fitness predicates that they are obsessional to some degree. Mm-hmm. That they have an obsessional anancastic style personality, because that's what's required to be successful in building your physique. You need a very, very consistent and relatively regimented life over years to produce the result that we're looking for. Now, as a result, that means that those people are particularly prone to obsessional style behavior patterns, including orthorexia, or even, and this is where it gets so weird, that orthorexic mentality, and you see this a lot with certain food Instagram accounts. You know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. People that were previously orthorexic thought that they saw the light. They went into this false nutritional enlightenment of, if it fits your macros, eating. And then all they've done is they substituted one form of obsession with another, and then they become obsessed with putting Nutella on, 12 grams...
Macro-friendly foods, isn't it?
12 grams of Nutella on 37 grams of quark, and some...
With a Quest bar chopped up and layered on top. When you think of the phrase macro-friendly foods, it is ludicrous. Because there is not a single food that is not best friends with macros. I can't remember who it was. It was your dog has macros, your grandma has macros. Everybody that consumes nutrition.
I think that was me.
Was it? Was it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Some genius on the internet. But yeah, I think that's actually the most insidious form of it, as far as I'm concerned, because someone then preaches that really hard, because they've had an epiphany.
Yeah. That
they then want to tell everybody.
That's still being driven by that really obsessional.
And people misinterpret flexible dieting. People think flexible dieting or flexible eating is tracking macros, because you can be just as obsessed about going 20 grams over your carbs as I shouldn't have eaten that crunchy
so much,
or that curly whirly.
We have a systematic process to detach yourself, medical issues excluding, to detach yourself systematically from obsession with certain styles of eating or certain foods. It's in our members area for the Propane Protocol, so anyone who is a client of ours at any level will get access to this, and you can always go on propaneprotocol.com to access it along with all of our other stuff. But we have this basically as a way to try and eliminate or minimise the mental RAM that you're spending towards food. And ironically, as long as you have the inputs taken care of, the less attention you can pay to food, the better for your success with dieting. And the real problem I have with these Instagram accounts, whether they're clean eating or macro friendly, or it doesn't matter, because they really glorify and they really obsess over food. And you see some people that take a photo of every meal they eat, and every meal they eat is perfectly crafted and looks really aesthetic, and you're thinking, okay, even just to make that look nice probably took you at least half an hour. Do you think spending that much thought, that much mental headspace towards your food is a healthy thing to do? In some cases might be fine if it's your job, if it's your profession, you're a chef or something,
So I think that's the only case.
Yeah.
Because anything else is obsessing over the wrong things for the wrong reasons, I would say.
Mm-hmm. The chopped Quest bar.
Yeah, and thinking that like I'm a flexible dieter now, so I need to start eating grenade bars, and I need to make protein pancakes for my breakfast, and I need to be following everything that these certain food bloggers are suggesting for recipes. But actually, like, if you were to follow my diet or Yusef's diet, even though this is literally what we do, that it wouldn't look anything like what you would expect from a fitness professional. That's not because necessarily we think it's magically optimal. It's just that we've reached the point where we've realised that actually the way that you feel about this stuff and your mindset around it, and that your thought patterns around food are actually just as important as specifically what you eat. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll have just seen a very he's looking a bit unwell,
a bit grainy. Yeah, I don't know why that's happened.
But Homer Simpson is this diet brain.
Yeah, so this is the old diagram, and basically, so as Jonny was saying, that if you were to look at our diets, there's but more the amount of headspace. I probably spend 1% of my day, maybe 0.5% of my day, thinking or planning about food.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
And it's normally just, I imagine, it's like time to eat. What am I going to eat?
Yeah,
or maybe even not even that.
Maybe not, because I just stick everything in the slow cooker, and then when it's time to eat, okay. Whereas during this phase, it was very much like this Homer Simpson diagram, where the majority, like the big chunks of my brain capacity, were just being put towards like donuts, or when am I going to eat next? When's the next meal? And it's quite debilitating. It just stops you from being able to do anything else.
Yeah, it does, and especially when you've just eaten, and the first thing you think of is, what am I next having? Or you start planning your meals in your phone or whatever. So there's that side of it, but also there's the, I suppose a good telltale sign would be if you find yourself, and I can definitely remember this headspace vividly. Someone says on a Wednesday morning at work, we're going for pizza on Friday night, or we're going for food on Friday night. Do you fancy coming? And what should be a really sort of opportunistic, fun thing to be involved with suddenly becomes this like macro Tetris juggling situation where you're trying to think, how can I fit this in? Or, how can I, researching the menu online, how can I order chicken and broccoli there without looking like a total twat?
It's reflexive as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was laughing because a guy just walked past like...
Oh, really?
And it's not that cold outside, but...
It's like rain face.
Yeah.
The face that means you get just as wet, but you walk around with rain face the whole time.
Rain face. I like it. Yeah, and it's the reflexive, like, oh god, how am I going to fit that in? Rather than, oh, that'd be nice to see them. It's crazy how
that'll be fun.
Creeps up on you.
Fun starts to become stress, and so if you start having stuff like that, or you're making these complex cocktails of specific foods, whether it's clean foods or macro friendly foods, then I suppose how do you deprogram that way of thinking? I think that what used to help me a lot was just trying to put in context why that stuff mattered. So, why do I think that I need to eat these foods? What is it about them that I think is special? Why do I think that I need to eat in this way at all? In fact, like, why am I dieting? What am I trying to get towards? And actually, if that's the goal, then what actually matters? Does the composition of where my protein, carbohydrate, and fat, does that actually matter? Does it actually matter that I hit those 3 numbers every single day? Does it matter that I'm in a calorie deficit every single day or every single week? And could I quantify the effect of going out and having a few beers in a negative sense? And a lot of the time, most people, unless you're at kind of the peak ends of performance, either from a physique perspective or a strength or physical performance perspective, you probably will not notice. In fact, I'd like to meet the person who does notice. If you follow like some of the top powerlifters in the UK, a lot of them, you see photos of them with, cans of beer, and there's Stephen Manuel springs to mind.
So many top Olympic athletes smoke weed frequently.
Yeah.
You're thinking like...
Well, and that, like, the famous Usain Bolt thing of him having chicken nuggets before the race.
Oh.
Like, there's a man who
It's just...
doesn't care and is the fastest man in the world.
It's insane.
But yeah, so he's doing a lot of other very specific work that's allowing him to get the results. But trying to just separate yourself from it for a second, and if an alien lands from another planet and goes, "Why are you having protein pancakes with chopped up Quest bars?" If you can't explain it without just saying, "Oh yeah, well it's for the macros, man." Like, okay, what are macros? Why do they matter? Why does it matter that you hit your macros? Why does it matter that you hit your macros every day? Trying to view it like that, because what you'll probably go on.
Well, this exercise that you're describing is really valuable to take outside of your diet as well. To take outside of, to put towards everything that you do, particularly if you are, the description that we've just said of the personality traits matches what you're like. If you do have a tendency to be a bit obsessional about stuff, or a bit addictive, people say, I've got an addictive personality, then check that addiction isn't being funneled into, maybe it's not food, maybe food's not your problem, maybe it's phone usage, or maybe it's social media, that kind of stuff, because that's designed to be that's designed to be addictive as well, and so it harnesses and takes hooks into any existing trait that we have, any existing predisposition to being addicted by something, and it doubles down on it. So
it's like if I said to you, "Okay, Yusef, you're gonna, there's a game. I've got this app. It's a game, and you're gonna go head to head with a group of guys in the US, and all of them are MIT, Harvard grads, some of the smartest minds in the tech world. Do you fancy your chances of winning?"
It's 5,000 of them.
Yeah,
against
you,
and they're getting paid to play the game.
Big money,
and you're not.
Performance-based pay as well. The more they beat you, the more they get paid.
Oh God, okay.
But you're just going to play like when you're at the bus stop and.
Okay, but they're playing full time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I probably wouldn't have a chance.
No, not a hope really. Yeah.
Bloody hell! When you put it like that,
yeah,
it's really frightening. And remember that their game, their metric for winning, is
TOS, time on screen. Mm-hmm. That said, though, I think it's fine.
It'll all just be fine.
I think that's fine. I think all the data stuff's fine, and I think people have more important things to worry about.
Well, we'll all be destroying ourselves as a human race.
Because like this is a proper sidetrack. But if someone's worrying about like their Facebook time, but when they're working, they're not focusing on, like, if they're not, when they sit down to work, they're kind of chatting with their mates, and they're just reading emails and replying to emails and like avoiding the big project. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
that you spend 3 hours on Facebook.
But I think one of those procrastinating things will be having Facebook open on a tab.
Just get cold turkey.
Cold turkey. That really is the solution.
So like I still have Facebook, look at it every day.
But I've seen some people that will watch a TV show while scrolling a screen.
Double screening.
It's like,
I think a lot of people do that.
Terrifying. Anyway, before we get too off track,
derailed.
You were talking about examining why
you're
doing something.
And so the next step from that is zoom out. So rather than look at a day or a meal, think, okay, well, I'm going to start looking at a week, and I'm just going to summarise what I do on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis, rather than meal by meal. And these little granular details start to seem far less important. So, okay, my goal is weight loss. What actually matters? So there's lead indicators and lag indicators, the things I can control, and then the things that say, am I winning, yes or no? So lead indicators are total calorie intake and how many training sessions I've done, let's say. So I'm just going to track those two things on a weekly basis, and then I'm going to measure my weight on average over the course of a week. When you look at those numbers, okay, so I trained 4 times this week, and my calorie intake was 2,500 under my predicted maintenance, and my weight's down. Amazing. Oh, but on Monday I had that croissant for breakfast, and on Wednesday we went out for lunch, and Friday I did have half a bottle of wine. that's really bad for me, isn't it? But zoom out, it becomes suddenly much less relevant. So anytime you find yourself worrying about the details and the granular stuff, at firstly ask yourself, why am I doing it? So could I explain this behaviour to an alien who has no context of what I'm doing and doesn't follow your favourite food blogger on Instagram, right? And then if I were to zoom out and look at the numbers that actually matter, do these things or do these details actually help to explain the result, either positively or negatively?
What's that quote? Like, a mistake is only a mistake if you do it twice. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm coming up to my medical finals. One of the exams is...
Dr. Yusef.
One of the exams is multiple stations back to back. So you do 8 of them, where you do an observed clinical encounter.
Pec deck, 3 sets of 10.
Pec deck, and then overhead
chest
press.
supported row, lat pull down.
Then abs at the end.
Abs.
So wood chops with it, yeah. Each one is a 6 or 10 minute encounter where you do a quick examination or history, and then you're on to the next one and the next one. And what they say is the people that fail are not the ones that screw up one particular station. It's the ones who screw up a station and then carry that through to the next one, and then they think, oh, it's very much the same as I've eaten a slice of cake. Oh, I've gone off my diet. Right, I'll just eat the whole thing, whatever. And so, really, it's not about
the Mondays case of the Mondays.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about the half bottle of wine. It's about, after you've had it, do you think I'm just going to throw baby out with bathwater, or I'm just going to get back on track? No problem.
And that's actually the worst aspect of being in a mindset of I can only eat clean food, because as soon as you don't, it's not a case of, oh, it's alright, I'll just get back on track. It's
I've done the worst thing in the world.
I've done fucked this. How do I unfuck it? Do you want to tell a story about how when I think your brother ordered you a coffee and it had sugar in it.
See?
And so
I'll let you. Right, so but back in the dark ages, back in
the dark days, down the dark path in the dark woods,
was some dark
There's a man on the
stairs. 3 skeletons lived. If anyone recognises what that's from, please let us know. So, Flux has just come on, that's why we went orange. And we're going fuzzy because the sun is setting outside. Back in the dark ages, Jonny and I used to do alternate day fasting. So fast for 36 hours, eat for 12 hours, repeat. I was in the middle of one of my fasts, and I had it in my head that the whole benefit of the fast is about having insulin low for so long that you get this cumulative gain in growth hormone and all this kind of stuff. And so my brother got me a coffee. I thought, okay, it's fine, it's a black coffee. I had a sip of it and I was like, oh man, there's like 4 sugars in this. 1 sip, oh, that's it. I've ruined my fast now. I'm going to go have a tuna cheese melt. Because what's the point in carrying on now? I've had a bit of sugar. Jonny did this hardcore he went to the cinema. This is a story we tell a lot on the podcast, but I just really, really like it.
It's been immortalised. I had no idea at the time.
So, do you want me to tell it?
Yeah.
Jonny went to the cinema, and at the end of his 36-hour fast, or like the day of the fast,
so 24 hours in. So, but arguably the hardest part's over at that point.
Yeah,
'cause you've got to go to sleep.
On the home stretch, sat down with a 2-litre bottle of Volvic Touch of Fruit.
2 2-litre bottles.
2 2-litre bottles. Okay, Volvic Touch of Fruit, strawberry flavour. Finished them both and was like, that's lovely. Volvic Touch of Fruit, like they managed to make water that's just delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just totally sugar.
Fuck.
12 grams of sugar per 100 grams, which means you just had something like 400 grams of carbs.
Yeah. Gone, done. Fucked it.
Without oh man.
Yeah. Well, that's it's the worst kind of calories. The calories that you can't even tell whether you've eaten or not. You know, like it's the Lindt Lindor, like where you eat one and you're like, and without the taste in my mouth.
Chocolate ball things.
They're like 100 calories. Those things.
Really.
Like little bullets of calorie density.
Bloody hell.
If you want to gain weight, go on the Lindt Lindor.
They're not that expensive either.
No, it's a very easy way. and they come in like different. So you could even have variety. You could have them in a bowl like cereal with milk. So whey over Lindt Lindor. You're thinking about this, aren't you?
Do you know what, Johnny? That's not that far removed from what cereal actually is. You get cereal that is basically chocolate, and Lindt Lindor with milk poured on top.
It would be Cereal Pro, wouldn't it?
When you think about
Cereal
it,
V2.
cereal as a concept is mental.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's like so. It's like crisps. It's like sweet crisps.
With
Like crisps are mental, but where we are, aren't we? Like evolutionarily, is that right? Evolutionarily,
Yeah.
designed to seek crunch and snap.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it signifies something being like ripe
well
for
cooked.
eating. Yeah,
I suppose crisp berries, very nice.
yeah.
Chicken wings that have been crisped.
So, like for example,
KFC. When the Paleolithic man used to go down to KFC and just get a bargain
bucket, yeah,
but
or
you
a
had to
tower
make sure
burger
it was like well cooked. Or the zinger, you'd have to get,
with a hash brown. So there's like, why are fried things nice? Because they're crunchy.
because it's natural in it. It's
Cereal's
got,
nice. It's crunchy.
healthy oils, and it's all about your beta oxidation and your salmon, avocado.
You have cereal every morning, don't you?
Pretty much.
You
yeah.
still?
I did have an egg and hash brown sandwich this morning.
Ooh, delicious.
But that was just because my breakfast was not my own. I went for breakfast.
Got it.
Well, I was
It's still your breakfast. Like you can still own it.
That's true.
You know.
I was at a cardiology workshop where they give you...
Well, they give you egg and hash brown.
Yeah.
But I thought it was bad for your heart.
Egg.
All of it.
Just the whole thing.
Food.
That's true, actually. It's very, very meta, isn't it? That,
Cool. There's another. Just to quickly, just to turn up the med student. So we'll just turn him on. Beep, 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 beep. I think another consideration with clean food is that it's healthy, and that. So let's say that I have my super fantastic Lindt Lindor breakfast, right? So I have 10 Lindt Lindor with some whey, or I have avocado on Ezekiel bread with a poached egg.
okay.
Right. So proper breakfast, twat breakfast, one of the two.
Right.
Calories and macronutrients are matched. Most people would look at that and go, "Oh, it's going to give you diabetes. That's going to give you cancer." That. Whereas the avocado one, people will think, "Well, healthy fats. What is the? If you were to, is one bad? Is one good?
Okay.
In the simplest terms,
The difference between those two meals, qualitatively, is the fibre content and the micronutrient content.
okay.
And the satiety value.
Yeah.
Lindt Lindor with milk probably means an hour later you'll still
With
be
whey.
With whey, you'd probably be hungrier again within... actually,
40 minutes.
Although whey is actually quite good for satiety. It does limit your... Can we turn on that light? Just tap the light. Oh,
Technology.
lovely. Isn't that great?
Oh.
So, apart from satiety value...
The
but
size of the shadow on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
So let's assume that you have your calories matched, but then you're hungrier later in the day. Lindt Lindor man is going to eat much more food throughout the day, is going to gain more weight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then they'll have to supplement with vitamins or fibre if they do that day in, day out, and they end up slowly deficient. Generally, though, vitamin deficiencies are not very common in the Western world. I think to become deficient in vitamins, you've got to have such a restrictive, narrow diet. And the way to avoid that is actually just to eat a broad range of things. Not necessarily to eat only clean things. You can actually get vitamin deficient by eating only broccoli. It's about eating the wide range. However, and I know this is a bit of a false dichotomy, but you've got the guy who's 8% body fat, trains 3 times a week, eats Lindt Lindor with whey and milk for breakfast. You've got the guy who's 35% body fat, eats 900 calories of avocado on Ezekiel bread and poached egg, and is inactive, but it's fine because he eats clean. Then you say, okay, which one's more healthy? Which one would you bet would have the better biomarkers, the better inflammatory markers, the better blood pressure, the better cardiovascular risk?
So, keeping in mind then that you can become 8% body fat training 3 times a week while eating the super mega fantastic Lindt Lindor breakfast, it's much better to manage the key indicators, so the fundamentals of being active, having some sort of activity that you're doing regularly, and managing your body fat percentage.
Yeah, and part of managing, or like a big portion of managing your body fat percentage is managing your hunger, managing your satiety. Long article on that on propanefitness.com/hunger.
And that's important. Why?
Because if you're feeling less hungry throughout the day, you'll eat fewer calories, you'll lose fat, you'll stay leaner. It's easier.
Consistency, right?
Yeah.
It's just easier.
So there's no magic formula, and yeah, the Ezekiel bread and the avocado and stuff, people will eat that for breakfast. They'll be fuller, they'll lose fat, they'll attribute their great progress to some magical thing within the avocado, but actually Occam's razor says it's a lot simpler than that.
So we have recently, and this may or may not be the case depending on when you're listening or watching this, we've recently started promoting our flagship article, which is How We Got Lean While Eating Haribo Cheesecake and Pringles, which the reason why that was such a profound thing for us at the time was that we were just coming out of this orthorexic phase, I suppose, and one of the ways that we dealt with it was we'd heard people say, I got lean. So Matt Ogus, for example, good example on YouTube. He's literally bodybuilder lean, like peeled. Like I think the phrase is dick skin conditioning. Sorry for that mental image if you're eating or anything like that. But and he spent a lot of time eating at Chipotle and eating a food that seemingly would this doesn't match up. So the way that we did it was we just, in true propane fashion,
let's take the piss.
Lie on the train tracks and hope we don't get run over. And lo and behold, we got lean while eating Haribo, cheesecake and Pringles. And we present that article, Yusef wrote it, it's presented in a very, very non-emotional, objective way of just look, this is what happened, this is what we did, this is what happened. And people
lose
just
shit
cannot accept it. Because they said, they think that, they didn't have Ezekiel bread, how you pronounce it.
But there's
it
people
can't work.
that really put foods on pedestals, put certain types of superfoods and things on pedestals, and it's all just food. It gets broken down into the same substrates in the end. Let's not be a willy about it. So, and actually, these things self-regulate over time. If you've been eating Lindt with whey and milk every morning for breakfast,
Power to you.
Do that for 6 weeks, and you'll be gagging for a bit of broccoli or some vegetables.
An apple.
And actually, Chipotle, I imagine that's like burritos and stuff.
Delicious.
It's delicious, but actually, it's not too bad. What is it? Beans, chicken,
cheese, meat, vegetables, bread.
It's a fast food outlet probably, but
I think people have this idea that in food like that, there's this other stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean that sarcastically. I honestly think
it's like in the flat Earth thing. They're like, oh, it's the heavenly energies.
Yeah,
there's something.
Because immediately you can almost see the conversation through, can't you? So I'm going to have Lindt Lindor and whey for breakfast. Yeah, but it's all the additives and the shit they put in Lindt.
It's the chemicals.
What is that? What, or rather, what do people think that is? I don't know. Do you know?
I guess we'll have to answer that next week.
There was something else I was going to say. What was it? Oh my god, what was it? No, don't. What? Oh, come on. Oh, I've got it. The other thing that's really annoying is, because this gets a kick in the other direction, so far the other direction that people say, so someone commented on this article today going, yeah, it's just a calorie deficit. Okay. I'm a billionaire. Well, yeah, you just made loads of money and saved it. Well, yes.
Just spend less than you earn. Simple. Okay, go and tell a poor person to spend less than they earn. Because
I think the big thing that's missed from the advice of just eat less, move more, or just eat a calorie deficit is that may well be the correct process, but a human living a normal life is not just this algorithm that you just go, boop, 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 boop. All right, calorie deficit done. See the lean version of you in 6 months' time. There's a lot to manage. that emotionally, physically, socially, that gets in the way of just eat a calorie deficit.
This is what we take care of, and that's the value that we provide to you, is that the process we have allows your process, your physique, to become as much of that black box as possible. But there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot of managing your social events and your hunger and all that stuff, but we've come to the simplest inputs that you can generate to produce the output that you need.
The simplest rules, if you will.
For dramatic results. And with that, thank you for watching.
We can go.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.